In this video, I'll be talking about how to make every single build in Nioh 2, including the very best build in Nioh 2, a build that you won't find anywhere else on YouTube. So let's begin. If it's your first time through the game and you're still on your regular playthrough of New Game, that's fine. Here's how you're going to make your build. First, you're going to want to take all of your stats up to 10. You might be wondering, Varsoon, why I'm going to do that. That seems kind of counterproductive if I'm building towards anything. The answer is, you're not building towards anything. You're on your first playthrough of the game, you silly person. The first couple of times that you put points in the stats, they're going to give you way more bonuses than later times because of the depreciating returns. So, or diminishing returns? I think it's diminishing returns. So, taking everything up to 10 not just balances your OCD, but balances your character across the board. The next thing you're going to want to do is take magic and dexterity up to 20. Not only will it help qualify you for some dojo missions, it's also going to give you plenty of ninjutsu and omnio magic capacity so that you can use all the little crutch items that you're going to have to use to get through your first playthrough of the game. It's okay. Use those sloth and protection talismans, and I guess those quick change scrolls too. Anyway, once you have that set up, you might be wondering, well, what else do I put stats in? And the answer is, whatever you want. Once you have 10, 20, and 20 down there, you can pretty much equip any armor that you want on your entire first playthrough of the game. If you do find something that needs an 11, just put it over there. But otherwise, you're going to look at whatever weapon that you enjoy playing the game with most. You're going to look at this screen and it says what weapon is mainly affected, and you're up that. So, let's say we're using Odachi. We're going to increase our strength all the way to 99. Now, if you do this and you follow this guide, by the time you beat the game, you're probably going to be less than level 147 like I have in this video, so should be fine, right? So let's talk about what you're going to do on New Game Plus. First, we're going to talk about equipment. Now, if you're in New Game Plus, you might be worried about equipping a certain armor set. And let me tell you, that's not going to matter until after you've already probably beaten New Game Plus, because you're going to have to farm for those armor sets to get the smithing techs anyway. And if you're really worried about equipping a certain armor text, don't worry. The armor set bonuses are all pretty much trash in this game. They've been severely nerfed since the last one, and their benefits are largely not very good. There are a few distinct ones that are outliers. Brilliant Stratagem gives you blind status whenever you scorch enemies. That's pretty cool. Look these up online. See what one gives you whatever you want for your build. For instance, if you want to do a bunch of cool yokai shift and gain a bunch of anima, you probably want Genryu's. If you want to set people on fire, you probably want Brilliant Stratagem. Same thing goes if you're using magic. You probably want Spirit of Seimei. There's another magic one out there too. Just, look them up. But what other gear are you going to be using? Well, you're going to get a Yasukani Magatama. Every single build video is going to suggest that. And your other accessory really doesn't matter. On all of these, you're going to tipper and inherit whatever you want. It doesn't really matter outside of the attack. And if you build for a specific skill. But we'll touch on that later. And then, what about your weapons? You're going to choose your favorite ones. Why is that? Because you're probably going to play the game better with your favorite ones and have a better time. It's okay. Now, what about stats? Well, you'll see the Yasukani needs you to have 10 magic, 10 courage. But if you forge all the rest of your armor, the stat requirements might be a little bit lower. Might be a little bit. I don't know. If you temper them, they'll go back right up. Or not temper, but remodel. Gotta try to get my words right here this time. Anyway, so once you've equipped all the gear that you want, or at least, set it up for equipment, you're going to go into your build and you're going to look at exactly what you need to do. First, you're going to want to take your dexterity and your magic up to 10. And that's so that you can get 15 capacity in both, so you can still use those crutches that you probably rely on because you're looking up build videos on YouTube. Otherwise, you're going to want to have that sloth talisman so that your revenant can shoot it at me every time. and I can sidestep it every time and upload the video to Twitter. Anyway, let's talk about those other stats. You're going to want to make sure that you have the minimum for whatever your armor requires. Let's just say that those were my armor requirement minimums, because I don't remember off the top of my head. And then you're going to take your stamina up until that little number on the right turns green. That's your agility bonus. It decides how good your dodge is, as well as your ki recovery. Why are you going to want it to be green? Well, you're probably bad at the game and you need it to be at least green. You can even get it to be blue if you're not using a heavier armor set. But, given the armor set that I have right now, even if I took this to 99, it'd never be blue. So, I shouldn't try to trick myself. It's fine with it being green. And it's fine with it being yellow as well, if I wasn't terrible at the game. And I probably am, because I'm looking up build videos. Anyway, hey, you know, just make sure your equip recoverance isn't over 100%. And if you do like light armor, don't complain whenever you get hit and you die. And if you don't get hit and die, make a bunch of cool MLG videos on YouTube and talk to everybody about how dumb they are for wearing anything heavier. Anyway, some of the other options you might be worried about, like, hey, what do I take up next, Varsoon? The answer is, it's the same as last time. You find the weapon that you're using. Let's say I'm using Switchglaive. That one mainly scales off of magic, so I'm going to take the magic all the way to 99. Now, again, you might be considering, well, what stats I'm going to take up next? And then you just consider the secondary stats that your weapon scales with. For Switchglaive, it's skill and constitution. And because constitution gives me way better bonuses for my character, and skill, it's kind of a dingus ability, I'm going to take constitution all the way up. And hey, suddenly, wow, this is looking a lot like a professional build, isn't it? Who knew? Anyway, that's how you make every single build in the entire game. You might have been wondering, what about Guardian Spirits or Soul Course? Well, the answer is pretty simple. You can use Tenjin Kujaku in high stance because of the Amrita bonus buff. It's the best buff in the game. Otherwise, the really cool thing about Guardian Spirits is they actually tell you over here in their abilities what they give you. So if you just think, what does my build want to do? And then you equip the Guardian Spirit that does that, it'll do it. It's great. There's only 20 of these, so it's pretty easy to just look and say, hey, that's the one I want. But my suggestion, and this is a wild one, is to find what kind of burst counter you like the most. Let's say I'm really into using Brute because that helps me get the most out of my burst counters. Well, then I just choose whatever my favorite Brute Spirit was. It's probably Mikami, I'm not going to lie. I like that yokai ability damage from all of them, and, well, if it's not Yokami, then, you know, I also am a big fan of Hyobishin, because he also gives me Brute yokai ability damage. It's pretty nice, but I like Mikami a lot too. But let's not digress. Anyway, like I said, suggest just using whatever one you want. Remember, these all animation cancel, so if you like to use heavier weapons, you can use Feral to actually get out of those situations where you're caught with your pants down. But let's be real, you probably have a Protection Talisman or a Ninjutsu Quick Change set up. Now, if you're wondering about Soul Course, well, I got your back. I wrote the guide on Soul Course. And if you don't want to read a guide on Soul Course or actually engage with the game and find out which one of these might be useful for your build and what plugs the holes in your build and, you know, where your weaknesses lie and what Soul Core might actually help you shore up those weaknesses, that's okay, because you can just use Otaki Mario and Yatsuno Kami for the entire game and melt everything. So that's okay. Also, if you're a barehanded build, you can cheat and exploit a bug. I guess it's technically not cheating. It's in the game. It's just not as intended. That's fine. Anyway, now you know how to make every single build, and even how to handle the Guardian Spirits and, you know, all of the Soul Cores on it. If you're wondering about tempering and inheritables, you can look up videos on that, which still exist on YouTube. I made them. So that way, you don't have to do any other sort of Googling or thinking for yourself. Anyway, back to builds. I did tell you I'd let you know how to make the single best build in the game, and the answer's pretty simple. It's whatever build you make. That's right, the build you made, not the one that you looked up. Because if you make a build, you're probably going to have some sort of ownership over it, as well as a good deal of confidence in the thing that you're using. You're probably going to be better at using the weapon instead of forcing yourself to adhere to what somebody else says is good. And you're going to stop asking a lot of really, really lame questions inside of the community, like, how do I get more out of this build? Or, I'm not doing the damage that this person put up in their video. What gives? And the answer is, stop trying to emulate other people. Engage with the game and enjoy yourself. Anyway, I think something just exploded outside. There it goes again. I should probably get going.